Right, I'm going to do a little bit of a market commentary. We'll come back to our trade on Aussie Swiss franc. That is getting close to my target. So we'll come back and look at that. It's running quite nicely at the moment. So we'll come back and look at that in a little bit. Let's just go and have a look at the Dow and the S&P, and I'm going to take a bit of a wider view on this because I think it's important to see where that market has been really now. If you look at it, for all of 2018, we're coming into the last quarter of 2019. What can you tell me about the price action if we look at this monthly chart? Is there anything you can tell me about the price action between 2018-19 and what was happening before? What's the key 2 or 3 differences when you look at this monthly chart? And I'm going to skip to the S&P as well because it's a fairly similar idea. What can you tell me in terms of the differential between what we've seen through here and then what we've seen in the last 2 years? Brilliant. Well done, Monica. Yeah, what we're seeing really from 2018, yes, we've had higher highs, and we'll look at those, but primarily the market has been consolidating for the best part of 2 years. Yes, we've had a dip down here, but what we've had is a very steady, well-behaved trend right up to 2018. The trend is stalling, yeah. So what we're seeing is a consolidation. Now, what else can you see? Is there anything else you can see? And again, it's similar on the S&P as it is on the Dow. The volatility, great, well done, Quinton. Yeah, so what you can see is not only is the range over a period of a month getting much bigger. Now, there are different arguments with this because you could argue, well, yeah, just because the range is bigger, you don't need a big range over a month. You could have a smaller range, but over 5 months, it will be heading in the same direction. But what you'll notice here is the market is very well behaved, isn't it? Look. Up, little bit of indecision, but the size of the move. So here you can see we came all the way down and came back up here. Then here, indecisive. Few up months, big down month, medium down month, big down month. So what you're seeing is the size of the moves, be them slightly up or slightly down over different periods of time, or when there's indecision, they're bigger. So the ranges over each month are bigger and the movement within each month is bigger. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. So I would say they're the 2 main things. So the volatility's increased and really we've been in a consolidation. Last thing is, yeah, we keep putting pressure on these highs. So we keep making ever so slight new highs, but the price action keeps making new pressure. And even when we had this move down and people were calling the crash, we've come back up. We've tested it, we've come back down, and we've tested it here. So where am I? Am I bullish? Am I bearish on either of the main indices? The answer is I'm fairly neutral. If I go down to the weekly, I think if we can get above what were the previous highs here on the Dow futures and those previous highs on the S&P, I think we're going to get, if we can break those, we'll push on up. That may mean that gold and silver have a little bit of a pullback as a result of it. But at the moment, apart from this blip that we saw at the end of last year, the market is maintaining, albeit very small, so on a slightly shorter term basis than the monthly chart, we're maintaining higher highs and higher lows. So for me, until I was to get a weekly close below the 50, and that doesn't mean I'm bearish, but if we got a weekly close below the 50, I would look again. And then I would just go up the time frames and say, okay, we've had a weekly close below the 50. What if we get, then I'd be looking to see, will we get a weekly close below the 21? And if we do that, then over the short and possibly short to medium term, I might be looking at some bearish trades in this gap. But ultimately, long-term bearish, the market would have to do something that it hasn't already done. Does that make sense to everyone? So the market would have to do something it hasn't already done. So if we look at how has it behaved? Well, during the move since 2019 on the monthly, we haven't had a single close below the monthly 50. So for me, I would need to see price close below the monthly 50 before I would be even moving towards long-term bearish. And in that scenario, I'd have to consider the trend line as well. So for me, having a long-term bearish view on the Dow or the S&P, I might think that a crash is coming, I might think that a correction is coming, but until I won't change my view until the market does something different than what it's done throughout this entire period. Yes, it's behaving differently over the last 2 years, but that's no reason to call a crash. Yes, the higher highs are getting smaller, but as I've already said, on the medium term, we're still getting higher highs and we're still getting higher lows. Now, again, that doesn't mean I'm overly bullish, but I'm certainly not medium to long-term bearish yet. All right, so that's the main indices there. Obviously, we've had a big rally on gold. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail when we go and look at trades. But obviously, gold's up at what is a support and resistance. Well, it's a support that's acting as a little bit of a resistance. Can everybody see that there on the monthly? So gold's had this rally up, it's very consolidatory for a period of 2 years. Market got very volatile, obviously with all the news about trade wars and all the other things. Market's pushed up and it's really behaving, on the longer term, gold's behaving itself. Look, it's broken a level, come up, hit a level and reacted to that level. So again, if we can take those highs out, I'll go to the weekly. If those highs get taken out, then the next level is up here, so around the 1800 mark. Now, I think you would have to see a move down on the main indices for that potentially to happen, or something that created a huge amount of uncertainty, which could cause a downward move on the main indices anyway. But just looking at that at the moment, could be in for a little bit of a pullback there off the top, off the back of hitting those resistances. Euro's been on a bit of a slide. We'll just look at this. Again, the last 2 years, I'm going to go up to the monthly. Similar thing here. If you look at the last couple of years of euro, not so much the same volatility. In fact, what you can see with the euro here, guys, in comparison to the indices, so rather than looking at indices, now looking at currencies, can everybody see that the range of the candles over the last 2 years has actually got smaller? Just give me a yes if you guys can see that. So what you've seen with currencies is a decrease. Well, I say currencies, let's say the euro. What we're seeing here with the euro is a decrease in the volatility. It wasn't big before, wasn't huge here, but certainly when you look back, it's similar to little periods here, and then you get bigger blips. So really, again, it's sort of slipped its way down, hasn't made it down to the lows previously, but it's really, the euro's not really going anywhere. Obviously, with everything that's gone on with the pound, we'll go and look at that. So we almost got down to the previous lows of 2016. We have had a few profitable trades here. I'm just going to go to the daily. We had our MPR trade here, and we actually have a possible setup coming up very shortly, which we're going to discuss in a little bit. All right. So we've broken out of this short-term trend line. Didn't quite get to the absolute lows of 2016, but put in this double bottom. We had our MPR trade here that hit target, hit the 50 on the daily, and hit the monthly resistance 1 pivot there. We've got possible swing reversal pullback, which we'll discuss in a bit. All right. So that's the state of affairs on the main indices. Let's go and have a look at some of the other trades.